and welcome back to the Birdhouse Rules. Let's talk about today all the books that I read in the month of October. These won't be in any particular order, but I'll talk about the two that I DNF'd. So I read, let's see, 5, 11, 12, 13, 14. I read 14 books and DNF'd 2. The first one that I DNF'd was Chaos at the Lazy Bones Bookstore or Bookshop by Emmeline Duncan. I'll put pictures here. I wanted all the cozy vibes from this. You're going to hear the dogs barking. I'm sorry. But I just couldn't get into it. I was pretty bored. It did have a lot of Halloween vibes and Halloween Town type vibes. Like, it was good atmospherically. It was fine, but I just couldn't get into it. I didn't vibe with it. So I DNF'd that one. And then the next one that I tried was Candy Corn Murder by Leslie Meyer. And I DNF'd this one. I think this is a little bit later on in the series. Or maybe it's at the fairly beginning. I can't remember. I can't remember what number it is. But I have read a couple others in that series. And they all kind of have a feminism type bent to them. And I don't really like that in my cozy mysteries and stuff. And so there was just a lot of that kind of stuff in there. And I just didn't care to read about it. So I DNF'd it. I don't remember what I DNF'd either one of those at. The Lazy Bones Bookshop one, I read to like 40%. And I was just bored. But it wasn't very much. It was just a few chapters of the Candy Corn Murder, and then I DNF'd it. So then the actual first book I completed in October was 4 Aunties and a Wedding. And I read the other Dial A for Aunties. I read the first one in that. And I like her writing style because I think it's funny and over the top. A lot like the Finley Donovan series. And I think if you like her, that style of books, you'll like these. And the Dial A for Aunties was kind of like a Weekend at Bernie's theme, kind of. And I don't really like that. I didn't like that movie, and I don't like that sense of humor. I don't know why. But I liked her other one. She had another one, too. Vera Wong's Guide to Something. If I find it, I'll put it here. And that one was cute. I liked that one. And this one was better. I liked it better than book 1. But I just don't know. There's a little bit of language in it, but there's more, they're just kind of annoying characters to me. But on the whole, it was okay. It was a fun time. It's a 3-star, so that's still not bad. But I don't know if I'll continue with these or not. So, but it is funny. And if you like her style of writing, or you enjoy things like the Finley Donovan series, I think you'd really like her. So there's that. I didn't tell you what any of these books were about. This one obviously is about a wedding. And so they're planning her wedding, and they have to find different vendors, and they find a family that's a lot like hers, and there's a wedding planner and a photographer and a hairdresser, but it's a girl and her 4 uncles and her grandma. Or so many uncles. I can't remember how many uncles she had, but she had several uncles involved, and her grandma. And so she overhears a conversation about the organizer talking about the target. So she thinks that they're targeting somebody at her wedding, and they're the mafia. So it's really funny. It is a good time. It's very over the top and funny. So then this one, The Lying Game, is about these girls who went to a boarding school in a small town. All of Ruth Ware's are English. They take place in the UK, and so she finds friends there, and they always pranked people by lying on them, and they earn points by who believes the lies and all this kind of stuff, and so they get to where they can't be trusted like ever, her and her 4-friend group, and then something is discovered and they have to rush back. There's one of the friends that remains in the area, that lives in the area, and they have to go back because something was found out about something that they did as teenagers when they were in the school. So that's what it follows. This one was just okay. I wasn't shocked by anything that happened, and I gave it 3 stars because I really didn't like the way it ended. I was really disappointed in the ending. It's not that I necessarily predicted the whole ending, but I didn't like the way she wrapped it up. I just didn't like the way she wrapped it up. And it was good, and like all her stuff, it's very unputdownable. I really like Ruth Ware, and but there is a lot of language in it, so there's that. And they are party girls too, so there's drinking and drugs and all that kind of stuff in it as well. So there's a lot in all of her books that are like that. So then the next one is In a Deep Dark Wood, also by Ruth Ware, and this one is a bachelorette party, and they're out in the middle of nowhere, and in this nice, I don't remember if it's like a house or a cabin. I think it's a fancy house out in the middle of nowhere. And it's a friend that she hasn't talked to in like years and years, and she's randomly invited to her bachelorette party. And then so she goes and she second guesses herself like the whole time she's there, and then it turns out she is, I don't know if I can say that without it being a spoiler. Anyway, so all these things start happening. And she tries to get to the bottom of it and figure it out. And I can't go into too much without giving spoilers, but it was a good time. Again, I couldn't put it down. There was drugs and alcohol involved again in this one, and a lot of language. And in all of her books, I think there have been, and that was one of the things I didn't like about this book and The Lying Game. This book was worse about it, I think. But they all have a queer representation in it. And the thing I didn't like was the characters in this book that were queer, they were just mean. They were mean people. And I was like, I don't really enjoy mean people. As I know that's real life. I know there are mean people out there, but I don't enjoy reading about it, even in a mystery. Just that level. There's one thing to be like snarky and sarcastic, but just a maliciousness in the things that they do and say, even to people who are supposed to be their friends. Like, I just don't jive with that. So, both, I said, 3 stars. It was a good time. Again, I read it through fairly quickly. It was a good read. So, the next one is Dean Koontz' The Whispering Room. This is the second in the Jane Hawk series. These are very slow mysteries. They're very intricate, very detailed, and she is trying to figure out why, what went on with her husband's death, and other people who, there's been an increase in suicides, and she's trying to figure out this trend and the people behind this conspiracy. So it's very slow, but it's a really good book, and this one is a 5-star read for me. There is a little bit of language, but not very much, and they're very detailed, and they keep you enthralled, even though it's a slow mystery. And then part of the mystery gets resolved, but there's another leg to it that's got to be resolved in the next book. So it's kind of like a cliffhanger, but not like a real cliffhanger, if that kind of makes sense. But if you don't enjoy slow mysteries, then you probably won't enjoy these. So then the next book, again, was another Ruth Ware book. This one was 4 stars. This was The Turn of the Key. And this one, she takes a job in a remote area of Scotland in this fancy, it is an old historic house, but they've done a lot of modern updating. And so, like, different things, there's a lot of technology in this house. And she takes this job because the pay is really, really good. And she's a nanny to these kids while the parents are gone working and all that kind of stuff. And it's really, really good. And then they've been told, I can't remember if the woods are haunted or the house is haunted, but I think the house is haunted. So, and so stuff starts happening while she's there, you know, and she's trying to figure out what's going on and why this weird stuff keeps happening. And then she feels like because of what's going on that's creeping her out at nighttime, she can't sleep. So she's like, am I just dreaming all this stuff? Am I going crazy? What's going on? She said, is this what happened to the other nannies? Are they going crazy? You know? So it's a really good book. It's intense. I kind of liked the way that this one turned out because I didn't see it coming. But I don't like exactly what happened. So that's why it's a 4 and not a 5. I was really sad about the way that it ended, but it ended well, and I didn't see it coming, so I did like that. So next, I didn't read anything for a week, and then because I was sick that week, and then I read The Lost Boys of the Barlow Theater by Jamie Jo Wright. This is a 5-star read for me. This is Christian fiction. This is the first I've read from her. And she handles like paranormal stuff in a lot of her books. And I figured this was the month to try her books. And I do have vlogs coming out about all these. This one is obviously about a theater. And it's haunted. And all hers that I've read so far have been dual timelines. So I assume that's her thing. So you have a past and present timeline. And in the past timeline, this girl's brother goes missing. And they're trying to hunt him down. He's a boy. Lost Boys of Barlow Theater. And then in the current timeline, these ghost hunters are going to the theater to film and see. They want to get more notoriety for the theater so they can keep it as a historic building. So that's what's going on. It's really interesting, and I really just devoured this book. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I loved the faith content in it. The main character has anxiety, and it's talking about her faith with that and along with the hauntings and stuff. So it's a really, really good read, and I highly recommend it. The next one that I read is also by Jamie Jo Wright, and it's The Souls of Lost Lake. I also gave this a 5-star. And again, the faith content in it is really good. And in this one, there's a past and present timeline. In the past timeline, this girl is found coming out of the woods with an axe with blood all over her clothes, and nobody can find her family. And then in the present timeline, you're following, they're at a summer camp, and a girl goes missing, and they're trying to figure out what happened. And they're saying that, you know, the girl in the woods that came out of the woods that was carrying the bloody axe, that she now haunts those woods, you know. And so it's not safe, and they've had other, like, kidnappings and stuff, you know. And they're blamed on that ghost. And so the girl in the present timeline, she's trying to figure out what's going on. Because their family owns a summer camp in that area. And it's one of her campers that's at the camp that goes missing. And so they're trying to find her, and she feels really guilty, and so she's trying to figure it out. And it's really good. Again, the faith content in it is excellent. I really thoroughly have enjoyed the books that I've read by Jamie Jo Wright so far. So, next, I read an Agatha Christie, The Halloween Party. 4 stars. I always enjoy Agatha Christie. This one obviously takes place at a Halloween party, and a girl ends up drowned in the bobbing for apples bucket. And so they're trying to figure out what happened. And it's a good time. I really like Agatha Christie because most of the time they're clean and there's very little language, if any, in her books. They're always very intricate, and it always comes down to the tiniest little details that he's able to put it all together in. and I didn't predict the ending to this one. I always really like that, so good time. If you like Agatha, you'll like these. The next one that I read was Ruth Ware's The It Girl. This one is a 4-star again, and they are college students. This is dual timeline. They're college students in Oxford, and so her roommate dies, and the timelines are told in present and like memories and flashbacks. And so in the flashbacks, of course, she passed away, and in the present, the killer who the main character put behind bars for her testimony passes away, and it brings all that stuff up again, and then she's afraid that she's got it wrong, and so it's her trying to figure out and get to the root of that. I was not shocked by the reveal, because I kept thinking the killer is obviously this guy, but I, in my brain, could not figure out how in the world he could have done it, you know? And so when it finally comes around, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. Why didn't I put that together? Duh, you know? But it was a good time getting there. It was really, really, really good. I enjoyed every minute of it. But there is a lot of language and drugs and alcohol in this one as well. And there's a lot of pranks. And she's kind of like a mean girl, the it girl. She's kind of like a mean girl. So if you don't like those mean kind of characters, you may not like this book. But I really enjoyed it. It was a fun ride. And like I said, I kind of guessed who the killer was, but I didn't mind the ride because I didn't understand until the very end how he could have done it. And it should have been obvious to me. But it was really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll continue to read Ruth Ware books. I've thoroughly enjoyed all the ones that I've read by her. So the next one that I read was A Halloween Homicide by Tanya Kappas, or Caps. I'm not sure how she pronounces it. I need to look that up. 4 stars. This one I read out of order, but I wanted to read a Halloween book. And I really enjoyed this. And I've enjoyed the other books that I've read by her. I enjoy the other books because they take place in my area of the country, you know. This one is not in my area of the country. It's set on a coast, but it's still a fun time, and everybody like goes over the top with all the holidays, and everybody likes themes, and they just go over the top. And so our reporter our main character is a reporter for the local newspaper, and she has to do an article for the town's like ghost walk or whatever. And when they're getting her preview, she gets, they find a dead body. And so she's got to figure out who killed this person and all that kind of stuff. And so it's a really good time. If you enjoy cozy mysteries, you'll really like these. Next was Toni Shiloh's You Make It Feel Like Christmas. This is 5 stars. She is a Christian author, and I thoroughly loved this. This is like a Hallmark movie with faith content. It was so cute and cheesy and just adorable. I just love this so much. This girl goes back home for her family Christmas, and she got laid off from her job, so she's kind of trying to figure out what's going on. But she also feels very insecure because she feels like her siblings are all more successful than her, and so she feels like they don't take her seriously and stuff. And so it's a really, really, really good book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I love the faith content in it. It was very cute. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Very Christmassy, as said, very Hallmarky. So the next one that I read, I actually have a physical copy from. I need to turn it back into the library. But it is One by One by Ruth Ware. And I was on a roll, if you can tell. And there'll be a vlog coming out, maybe, with all these in it. So, One by One, these people are part of a tech company, and they go on a skiing holiday. I forget where at. I don't know if it says. French Alps. So this is a tech company. They have an app. They go on a skiing holiday in the French Alps, and there's a merger that they're trying to make happen for their company. but there's some division amongst the ranks about it, and so some people want it, some people don't. I don't know where to hold this to where it doesn't look weird, so we'll just hold it here and hopefully it don't look weird. So what happens in this book? So they show up, snowstorm's coming. My dog's out there barking, of course. So they're in this remote place. Snowstorm's coming. The weather's bad. And people start dying. And it gets good and creepy. And it's a good time. There is language, drugs, and alcohol, of course. But it is a really good time. Just like all her other books that I've read, it's really good. And it's 4 times. You just can't put them down. I just really liked it. And again, I've kind of thought of who the killer was, but I didn't know the why, and I didn't know like the depths of it. So like, even though I kind of figured out who it was, I enjoyed the ride to get there and how she tied it all together and brought it together in the end. So it was really good. It was worth the ride. 4 stars. Let's see. The next book I read was M.C. Beaton's The Witch's Tree. Yes, The Witch's Tree. And this one is in a remote village. This is the Agatha Raisin series by M.C. Beaton. And this one I read out of order. I have read a few of these already, but this one's way down in the line. But I didn't love this one as much as I have loved her other ones, and I only gave it 2 stars. Because there's a lot of, even though there's no sex on page, there's a lot of talk about sex and lovers and just that kind of stuff. And our main character is going through a drought in her personal life, and so there's just a lot of talk about that on page. And I just didn't enjoy it. It took me out of the story. It took me away from the mystery, so I didn't enjoy that aspect of it. And there is some language in this book. And but in this one, there is a tree that everybody calls the witching tree or the witch's tree in this little remote village in England. And somebody is hanged on it. And so she decides to investigate because she's in between cases. She's a private detective. She's in between cases and she's just curious about it. And I really enjoyed the mystery. I always enjoy her mystery in her books because I've also read her Hamish Macbeth series and it was fantastic. But in this one, I said there was just too much sex content. Not that I said it's not on page, we're not getting graphic details, but it just took me out of the story, took me away from it. So that's that. Then lastly, I read this book by James Patterson. So in this book is Violets Are Blue. This is part of the Violets Are Blue by James Patterson. It's a really good book. It's in the Alex Cross series. This is like book 7. And he is following a killer coast to coast. He is a DC police officer. And so he's hunting a killer that's coast to coast. And they're very graphic and gross. So if you don't like that in your mystery novels, don't read his because they're very graphic. There is a lot of language in these, and these are messed up. So if you don't like messed up things, these are very much along the lines of like Criminal Minds stuff and Law and Order creepy things. So just keep that in mind. If you like mysteries and if you like things like that, then you'll like these. This is an old book. I'm just only now reading them because I read the first couple 2001, so these are old, so chances are I'm one of the last people to read these. But if they're on your wish list or your TBR to get to one day, they're worth it, and I'll keep you updated as I read more. But he's hunting a killer coast to coast, and these are very bizarre. Like I said, they're really weird and dark, and I didn't read the synopsis because I just want to read them. There isn't any details, so I'm not going to give any away. There's not any details in the synopsis, but they're ritualistic looking killers kills, kill scenes, whatever you want to call it. And they're dark and messed up. So, but they're a good book. So that's that. So that's all the books that I read in October. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know below if you've read any of these and enjoyed them, or if they're on your horizons out there somewhere. Let me know what your favorite book in October you read was, or just leave me an emoji just to let me know that you were here. Thanks for stopping by.